You didn't click on this video to hear about books, you came to play book Jenga with me. Okay, we're gonna go in. Never a good game to play book Jenga. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. I wanted to dedicate this video to talking about books, the books I've read so far, and give you my thoughts on them, and also talk about how reading has really shocked me and surprised me, you know. I never thought I'd get into it. I basically, at the start of lockdown, around that time, I ordered myself 14 books that I have beside me here, and it was the books that you guys recommended to me. I will link that video down below. That's basically where this whole story started. I'll put it in a card as well. So yeah, I'm gonna put timestamps throughout this video because I'm firstly gonna talk about books in general and the benefits I have reaped from reading every day pretty much since I got these books, so since the start of lockdown. And then I'm going to talk about the books I've read so far. I have given you short summaries and reviews in my vlogs, but I wanted to dedicate this whole video to reviewing the books and sharing some things I haven't really talked about. We're going to start with how reading is changing my life. So, where do we begin? In summary, I've essentially gone from someone who literally repelled books. I always turned down a book and I shook my head and said, no, I can't read. I don't read books, that's not my thing. To someone who now picks up a book literally every day and loves it, is totally absorbed. And as a child, I loved reading books. I would do the summer library challenge. There was a thing in the UK, if anyone remembers that. I don't know if they still do it, but we had this reading challenge that would happen annually in summer and you'd get a certificate at the end. Then at school, I did like GCSE English, Literature and Language, and I was really good at it. My teacher really said I had a flair for English. I just lost my love for reading and writing when I became so absorbed in studying and academics, and I was super busy. I was dancing a lot. I just didn't think I had the time to read, and I still am super busy now, but I've just kind of allowed myself to, you know, switch off for a bit in a day and to just do something that's very different. I'm also someone who dislikes the idea of saying I can't do something, especially when I hadn't even tried. Like, I always used to say I can't read. Yeah, had I really tried? Like, really, Holly, had you really tried to read? To put the effort in? No. Like, I've particularly loved just being able to switch off for a bit. I've loved just finding laughter through reading and using my imagination to build a picture of the characters and the scene and where the book is set. And I've learned so much. Like, I've learned about mental illness and racism, and it's taught me so much, these mostly fiction books. As I said, and as I kind of implied before, I do love language, and it's kind of rekindled that. When I see a really great simile or metaphor or word on a page, I'm like, oh, I love that word. But yeah, without getting too deep, this is not a Holly Gets Deep episode. Let's basically work backwards through them. So I'm gonna start with the book I read last. I'm actually missing one. What? Why are there only 13 books? Oh my gosh, I am missing a book. Right, I've worked out. 1 second. We have it. We found the missing book, this one. I gave it to mum to read. Has she started reading it yet? No. I've read 8 books, I'm over halfway. I had the book Gut before I ordered these, and this book has also come most recently. I didn't buy it, I was sent it from Ruby Granger, many of you guys know. But yeah, this book has a whole story behind it, as in why it's ended up here with me. But yeah, I'll talk to you about that probably in vlogs. I haven't actually read it yet as well, so shout out to Ruby anyway. Yeah, so I'm gonna work backwards. We're gonna start with Educated. I literally just finished this, and out of all the books I've read so far, this is the one that has made me really think and feel a certain way. So it is a memoir, and I do highly recommend it. I highly recommend all of the books I've read so far, to be honest with you. I just feel in general, with this book in particular, it's so insightful to read about other people's life experiences, especially those that are so different to your own. But anyway, basically she was raised into a Mormon family in Idaho in America. As a family, and especially her dad, they have very radical ideas, so they don't believe in like doctors or formal education. But it's just such an inspiring story because yes, Tara does end up going to Cambridge and then to Harvard. Throughout the book I was like trying to speak to Tara, being like, come on, you have to move on. But it just shows the power of love for your family despite what they do to you. Tara kept trying to go back to her family to, I don't know, make amends, and her brother, her older brother, did abuse her mentally and physically. Yeah, she didn't speak of him in a very bad way at all in the book. Obviously she now recognizes it as abuse, but at the time she didn't, because she was raised in such an insular environment and community. See, I haven't read very many books, and I should say, like, these are just my personal opinions. You don't have to agree or disagree, you know, that's the point of having an opinion. But my, not problem, but only critique would have been to give a few more details regarding how she got to Cambridge and then to Harvard. See, I was just really confused with what she actually did. I know she didn't get any qualifications from school because she didn't go to school, but she went to BYU, Brigham Young University. She then went to Cambridge, but I think, having looked it up, I think she did a master's at Cambridge. Then I think she went to Harvard as like a visiting scholar, and then she came back to Cambridge to do a PhD. I think that's what happened, but it wasn't very clear in the book unless I just read over it. But yeah, I just thought it kind of omitted certain details that I would have thought would have been quite valuable to read about, especially because obviously getting into Cambridge and going to Harvard, they're top universities in the world, and it kind of made it sound as if it was really easy for her to get there. I don't know, I just felt like if she'd have added those details, it would have made it sound more realistic. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I loved it. I felt so inspired after reading it, but I feel like those details could have been added. And I also felt, because the book is about like the power of education and stuff like that, I felt it was kind of ironic that she didn't talk about how she got to these places. That was my only little thing I'd like to say about the book, and maybe that's the point of a memoir. It's just supposed to be a series of memories, not a whole life story, but I just wanted that detail. I don't know if you've read it and you felt the same, but I felt that way. I was going to try and put these in an order of my favorite and my least favorite, but I just can't do that. They're all so different. Okay, working backwards, as I said, this is the one I read before Educated. Am I Normal Yet? I read this so fast. It's the fastest I've read any of the books. I was just drawn to like the humor in this book. However, it did handle a very sensitive issue like mental illness and OCD really well. It did also talk about feminism, which is obviously a very complex societal issue, but it introduced it in a way that was very relatable. Contamination OCD, which Evie has. Evie is the protagonist. That's the most common form of OCD, and just like Educated, it's so interesting to read from the perspective of someone who has a very different life to you. Evie just wants to be normal, as it says on the back of the book. That's kind of the blurb. She wants to go to college and go to parties and have friends, and the one thing that she's having most problems with is having a boyfriend. And yeah, I mean, personally, I've never had a relationship or a boyfriend, and so it kind of put me off. I was like, why am I even gonna go there having read this? But you know, it was funny. I really enjoyed it. Something I really learned from this and will take away is this idea of the Bechdel test. It's where you ask 3 questions about a fiction novel or movie, and it's about female characters and whether they talk about anything other than men in the story, and most of the time, in a lot of cases, they don't. I was shocked when I read that. I was like, it's so true. But at the same time, the book did kind of center around girls running after boys. I mean, they talked about stuff other than boys, obviously, so it passed this Bechdel test, but I just felt that was kind of a bit ironic, I suppose, the fact that the main character did really want a boyfriend. So yeah, the author Holly Bourne, she made this book and then she wrote 2 others, and they're all in this Spinster Club series. I am actually considering reading the next 2 because I suppose I'll learn about feminism as the characters learn about feminism as you read it. So yeah, what is this banging? What? Just don't even get me started with background noise. There is still background noise and it's the weekend and oh my gosh. But anyway, moving on to the next book, The Hate You Give. This is actually a film, and I've read the book before I've watched the film, so that is an achievement. But this book, I love this book, okay, as well. I'm gonna say the same thing for all of them at the start. I loved them, but this one in particular, it had like perfectly timed bits of humor that I loved, and I just loved Star's family. So Star is the main character. The family dynamics were just so realistic, but at the same time, their love for each other in the book was just so like, oh, I just loved it. And even more than that, this book taught me so much about like white privilege and racism. It made me frustrated, really did, and it shows the importance of raising your voice, but then it talks about the costs associated with doing so. But to me, it's just given me that spur to use my voice as an ally, try and educate myself firstly, and then, I don't know, do what I can. With this one, The Children Act by Ian McEwan, it was a short read. This has also been reworked into a film, I think. I liked this book as well, enjoyed it, definitely. I was engaged after reading the first sort of page. It doesn't really move very much, as in it's only set in like London and then there's a bit in Newcastle. It's intertwining two ideas. One is that Fiona, who is the protagonist, her relationship is kind of breaking down. Her husband Jack wants to go off with a younger woman, and so this book, in contrast like Am I Normal Yet, this book taught me about the struggles in a relationship in later life. And so I was like, again, do I really want to go there? But anyways, aside from my personal feelings, but at the same time, Fiona, who is a lawyer, she is faced with a court case where she has to decide whether or not a 17-year-old boy called Adam should get a blood transfusion for his leukemia, and because he's a Jehovah's Witness, he doesn't want that. So yeah, two kind of ideas intertwined. I was quite confused, but basically there was a point when Adam goes to try and see Fiona. He like follows her and they end up kissing for a split second, and I was really confused by that. That was the bit in the book that I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to reread it, and that happened quite near the end, and I thought it was gonna steer the end of the story and it was gonna end quite unexpectedly, but that was just quite a spontaneous and independent event in the book. I'm still thinking about what it really meant. What was the author really thinking in that point? But maybe the boy Adam, I don't know, he had feelings for this Fiona, or maybe Fiona felt so detached from her own relationship she went ahead and kissed Adam. I don't know, but yeah, overall I did like it. It ends quite sadly. Sorry, shouldn't have maybe said that. I'm not sure if this is going to be a bit out of order, but anyways, since you've been gone, at the start of this book, and because it's quite thick, I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it. I thought it was going to be really predictable. I am going to say the end is quite cheesy and a bit cliche, as in she ends up finding her friend Sloane. Sloane? Is that her name, or did I just make that up? Sloane, yes, I got it right. But I kind of liked it. I don't know. I was like, oh, they end up seeing each other again. I personally related to this book because in this past year, my gap year, I have stepped outside my comfort zone. And to some people, like going skinny dipping or kissing a boy or doing the tasks on her list are not a big deal at all, but to some people, like myself included, these are a big deal. Like going skinny dipping, to me, that is the scariest thing. Like, would I do that? Probably not. Kissing someone as well, I've never done it, and so that's like taking a risk. That's stepping outside a comfort zone, you know. And so I personally could relate to Emily in this book, and that's why I think I really enjoyed it. This is going to her. As I said, I just gave this to my mum. I would recommend this to anyone, but in particular to those people that are considering doing medicine, because although it is a very funny account of many of his experiences, I just thought it really did portray the realities of being a doctor working in the NHS. Their long hours, their night shifts, what they go through is so tough, and I have so much respect for the people that work in the NHS, doctors, nurses, everyone. If you're squeamish, at some point you might not like it, but overall I do recommend. I feel like my reviews are getting shorter because I don't want this video to be too long, but anyways, so this one is by John Green. This is the first John Green book I've read, which is not surprising because I've literally never read this many books in my whole entire life. This was quite a similar setup to Am I Normal Yet, because the main character again had contamination OCD. Also, it's intertwined with like anxiety. I loved the analogy of the spiral. Personally, it just made me think, you know, negative thoughts always do spiral out of control. And then it's made me think on the flip side, why don't positive thoughts spiral out of control? We only have one odd positive thought. Yeah, with negative thoughts, you can say one negative thing, it leads to another and another, and it's like a domino effect. I thought it was so strange that the idea of mental illness and the main plot to the story about this boy's dad who's a millionaire going missing, and this boy called Davis is a friend of Aza's from her childhood. These two like unrelated concepts come together in a book so seamlessly, and I'm just like, wow, John Green did that really well. But yeah, he loves his metaphors. He's quite philosophical at times, but it was a great book. Comparing it to Am I Normal Yet, I don't know which one I preferred. It's a hard one. Okay, and finally we come on to the first book I read, the cat book. Oh my gosh. You guys know I love cats. I am such a cat person, and so this was definitely my type of book. It was just, oh my gosh, so wholesome. The relationship between Nana, the cat, and Satoru. I don't know how you say the name of the man. Satoru, maybe. But their relationship is just like the best. It almost made me cry. Obviously, a book with animals in it. It had to end sadly, didn't it? Yeah, I did have visions when I first started reading this book that Nana and Satoru were going to like travel the whole world because it's called the Travelling Cat Chronicles. But somehow the fact that they only traveled over kind of shortish distances within the country where it's set made it just so much better. It wasn't entirely written from the perspective of Nana the cat, but those bits were personally the best because cats to me are just such interesting characters and they're so hilarious. And if you watch Cats, I always think about what they're thinking, and this is exactly what the book did. So yeah, I loved it. Please read it. Even if you don't like pets, I feel like you will still enjoy it. Spoiler alert, but it will help you because it frustrated me. Nana the cat does not look like this, and it only tells you this right at the end. And so if you want to know why, I suggest going to one of the last pages and reading why the cat in the book does not resemble Nana. I was really annoyed at this because I was like, the person who drew this did not get it right, but there's a reason for it. I just feel like the author should have put that at the start. Anyway, that's my only thing I wanted to say about that book, other than the fact that I loved it. So yeah, let's rebuild my pile. I did struggle with The Book Thief. It's written from the perspective of death. I just didn't get into it, so we will go back to it and I'll tell you my thoughts at the end because so many of you guys said it was such a good book and I'm gonna be annoyed if I don't enjoy it, kind of thing. But then again, I will be honest and let you know. That's my video. Even if I don't read as often as I am doing now, I would like to keep doing it because I'm learning so much, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, like this video if you enjoyed it. As always, give it a good old thumbs up. We shall speak very soon, okay? Bye for now, my friends. Bye. The bagging will obviously continue. I just can't even deal.